America's heartland is in chaos, and China just pulled the trigger. Beijing has slapped a brutal 100% tariff on key U.S. agricultural exports, instantly choking off billions in farm income. Soybeans, corn, wheat, crops that once sailed to Chinese ports are now stranded in silos. For American farmers already battered by rising costs, droughts, and falling prices, this isn't just bad news, it's catastrophic. In Iowa and Nebraska, the mood has turned from frustration to full-blown panic. Farmers are canceling equipment orders, banks are freezing ag loans, and small-town economies are starting to collapse. This isn't just a trade spat, it's an all-out economic assault on America's farm belt. And the scariest part, Washington didn't see it coming. So why did China do this now? And is this just the beginning of a much larger economic war? Let's break down the fallout and what happens next. On August 28, 2025, China officially imposed 100% tariffs on a wide range of American agricultural goods, a move that sent shockwaves through global markets and stunned U.S. exporters. The new tariffs specifically target soybeans, corn, wheat, cotton, beef, and dairy products, all key pillars of American farm exports to China. This wasn't a slow build-up, it was a sudden strike. In an unexpected midnight announcement, China's Ministry of Commerce labeled the new tariffs as a countermeasure against recent U.S. trade restrictions on Chinese tech and energy sectors. But analysts believe this move was long in the making. A strategic escalation aimed squarely at one of the most politically sensitive sectors in the U.S. economy: farming. The numbers are brutal. In 2024 alone, U.S. farmers exported over $27 billion worth of crops to China. With the new 100% tariffs, those products are now twice as expensive for Chinese buyers, effectively pricing them out of the market. Chinese importers have already canceled existing contracts, rerouting purchases to suppliers in Brazil, Argentina, and even Russia. Some ships en route to Chinese ports were turned back mid-sea, others offloaded at a discount in third-party markets. The impact in the U.S. was immediate. Grain prices plummeted overnight. Futures contracts for soybeans dropped 12%. Corn was down. Warehouses in Illinois and Iowa are now overflowing. With no buyers, farmers are being forced to store unsold crops at massive costs, or dump them outright. Even more concerning is the timing. This tariff bombshell lands just weeks before the harvest season, the worst possible moment for supply chain disruption. Farmers had already invested in fuel, fertilizer, and labor, expecting strong fall exports. That expectation is now shattered. And Washington? The reaction was confused. The U.S. Department of Agriculture released a vague statement promising to support affected farmers, but details are non-existent. The White House has yet to announce a concrete response strategy. To many in rural America, this feels like déjà vu, a return to the Trump-era trade war days, but with even higher stakes. So was this retaliation, a warning, or the opening move of a deeper economic shift? Let's go deeper. For American farmers, this isn't just another bump in the road. This is a financial catastrophe. Let's be clear. U.S. agriculture is already under immense pressure. Input costs, fuel, fertilizer, equipment, have surged by over 30%. Interest rates have made farm loans unaffordable. And now with China, once the largest buyer of American crops, effectively shutting its doors, the farm economy is nearing total collapse. Many farmers had planted this year's crops counting on Chinese demand. Soybeans in particular were grown heavily in states like Iowa, Illinois, and Minnesota, where over 60% of soybean exports historically went to China. Those crops are now stuck in silos, with no destination and no profit in sight. Worse, these tariffs didn't just remove a customer, they empowered America's competitors. Brazil, already a major soybean producer, is now filling the gap. Chinese buyers are aggressively signing long-term deals with Brazilian suppliers. Argentina is stepping in on corn. Even Russia is gaining ground on wheat exports. American farmers are not just losing sales this year, they're losing market share for the long term. The emotional toll is visible. In rural counties, there's talk of bankruptcy, auctions, and abandoned equipment. Generational farms passed down for over a century are being sold to pay off debt. Mental health hotlines in farm states have reported a surge in distress calls. Some banks have stopped lending altogether, fearing mass defaults in the coming months. And while politicians in Washington argue over next steps, farmers are left stranded, watching their entire year's work become worthless. This is what a death blow looks like, when an industry already on the edge is pushed over the cliff, not by drought or weather, but by the very systems of international trade they once depended on. And the big question now is, was this avoidable, or has U.S. agricultural dominance reached the point of no return? Next, let's unpack the deeper motives behind China's move. This wasn't just a reaction. It was a calculated geopolitical strike. China's 100% tariffs on American farm goods may seem like simple retaliation for U.S. sanctions on Chinese tech and energy firms. But when you zoom out, it's clear this is part of a much larger strategy: weaken U.S. leverage, diversify China's supply chains, and shift global trade dominance eastward. Over the past 5 years, China has been quietly building alternative agricultural partnerships, especially with Brazil, Russia, Argentina, and even African nations. It's not just about cheaper crops, it's about reducing reliance on the United States, a country China sees as politically unreliable and increasingly hostile. Beijing knows exactly where to hit America where it hurts, and that's the Farm Belt. Rural America forms the backbone of U.S. exports and holds immense political influence. By targeting this sector, China is putting pressure not just on the economy, but on the very voters who swing U.S. elections. And there's a longer game. China is advancing its BRICS Plus vision, a global trade and political bloc aimed at countering Western institutions like the WTO and export power. China is accelerating a multipolar world order, one where Washington no longer sets the rules. This move also signals to developing nations, you don't need the US anymore. In short, these tariffs aren't just about soybeans and corn, they're a strategic maneuver. And perhaps a sign that the global trade war is no longer just about products. It's about power. Next up, how is Washington responding, and can it stop the bleeding? In Washington, the response has been hesitant and divided. The Biden administration has called the tariffs unjustified economic aggression. But beyond press conferences, there's been no clear plan of action. The Department of Agriculture has promised aid packages, but farmers say they've heard it all before, during the last trade war under Trump, and the money often comes too little too late. Congress is split. Some Republicans demand immediate retaliation, possibly new tariffs on Chinese imports. Others warn that escalation could deepen the crisis. The truth: Washington is caught between protecting its farmers and avoiding a full-scale global trade war. Globally, the fallout is growing. Markets in Europe and Asia are watching closely, fearing similar disruptions. Brazil and Argentina are seizing the moment, increasing crop exports to China, gaining market share at America's expense. Meanwhile, BRICS allies are praising China's resistance to Western pressure, signaling a deeper economic realignment. And the WTO, powerless. With trade rules collapsing under nationalism and retaliation, institutions built to resolve disputes are being ignored by both sides. This isn't just a US-China fight anymore. It's a warning to the world. Global trade is becoming a battlefield. Next, what lies ahead, and is there any way out? So where does this all go from here? For US farmers, the road ahead looks grim. With China's market effectively closed, they'll be forced to seek new buyers in regions like Southeast Asia, Africa, or the Middle East. But building those trade relationships takes time, infrastructure, and diplomacy. Things farmers don't have the luxury to wait for. In the short term, expect a wave of bankruptcies, land sales, and political pressure. The Farm Belt will demand action, and both parties in Washington will feel the heat as the 2020. Meanwhile, China is moving fast to lock in new suppliers and tighten its grip on global food security, all while undermining America's influence in the process. This isn't just about tariffs anymore. It's about a shifting world order, where old alliances are cracking and economic power is rapidly being recalibrated. And in that new world, those who can adapt fastest, not just fight back, will survive. If you found this breakdown insightful, hit subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned, because this US-China trade war, it's just getting started.